distinguished sovereigns, kingdom ambassadors, industry generals, and leaders of the global ecclesia. I'm Natasha Nicole J. Andrews, and I stand before you today as the Group CEO and Principal Transformation Architect governing the Key Global Group. As you know, Key Global Group is a multidisciplinary ecosystem that's engineered to function as the bridge between high-level boardroom strategy and frontline marketplace dominion. I wish to formally recognize and honor the diverse gifts that are represented here today, strategic gifts guarded in this jurisdiction, and I offer special acknowledgement to the leadership and membership of my home base, Valley Kingdom Ministries in PT Valley, Trinidad, led by none other than Apostle Wayne Andrews. You have joined this council from across international shores and varied time zones, and we acknowledge the weight of the mandates you carry and the strategic complexity of the schedules you have forced to invest in this sovereign activation. And please know from my heart, your presence is a significant data point in this movement, which we do not take lightly at all. And I wish to formally recognize the leadership of various national professional associations here. Your presence here is to provide executive peer review and clinical governance feedback, which ensures that our KYBERNESIS framework continues to meet the highest global standards for institutional impact. The Key Global Group is an institutional ecosystem, and for those of you who don't know, we govern 5 specialized jurisdictions: the financial position of Zoe Financial, legal compliance of our Alpha Incorporations division, of course, the GA, our elite EdTech infrastructure here today, and of course, the intellectual asset production of our Zara Media Publishing House. I serve directly through the Key Performance Architects division as the KYBERNESIS, the strategic steerage behind legacy architecture of several industry generals and 5-fold sovereigns. And my mandate is to strategically position these leaders for global impact, governing at a pace that ensures that I prioritize my primary ministry and highest fiduciary responsibility, which is my family. My life's passion is rooted in the forensic restoration of purpose. As you know, my journey has been documented in our best-selling manual, Restored to Purpose and Dominion. And today, our Global Enterprise Academy stands as an institution globally accredited by the CPDSO, the Continuous Professional Development Standards Office that's based in the UK. And by the grace of the Almighty, we were recently recognized by the Global Media Limited as the Future Ready Enterprise Transformation Architects of 2026 in the Caribbean. So return all glory to God for establishing us as an emblem of His grace and, of course, a strategic blessing to this generation and the lineage to follow. Right, so to facilitate a borderless global execution of our time today, we have selected this virtual campus format, right? So we want to ensure that you have the ability to interact and engage in our live Q&A and technical conduits. So I recommend joining via the Zoho app on your devices. I'm profoundly expectant, of course, regarding the time that we spent together today. I too, just like you, I'm on a current assignment, a mission to equip, certify, and credential you for your specific global mandate. All right, and maybe you have deferred or sat on that for some time, but I believe it's time for us to move from vision to infrastructure. So beyond today's VIP session, we're going to be progressing through a 12-week framework, and our virtual campus will definitely and certainly be augmented by the presence of guest subject matter experts, diverse global jurisdictions, and we anticipate that their contribution will serve to further sharpen your competencies and ensure absolute institutional readiness for your high-stakes international mandates. Thank you so very much. Again, a warm welcome for those who are joining with us across the borders, across the shores. And here's our strategic roadmap for today's briefing, right? So we're going to be looking at jurisdictional terms, our KPMC lexicon. These are what we refer to as our palace terms, right? Jurisdictional to GEA, the language of KPMC. Of course, we're going to be talking about the mandates of the Technites in a little while, right? From vision to execution. We're going to be handling and addressing the subject of the finisher's audit, identifying why visions fail. And that's going to be quite enlightening for us today. Running over the walls, establishing your global kingdom vision, and GMA projects, right? I'm really excited about that. And of course, we're going to receive commissioning to come up hither and possess the gates. So let's begin our first jurisdictional term. And so all of them here: KYBERNESIS, Technites, project management, government, administration, AI, and the digital workforce, sovereign producers. So these are domiciled at the GA, and we're going to be examining how these apply to the KPMC journey. All right. So let's begin with KYBERNESIS. So to understand the weight of our mandate and the mandate that you carry, we must first audit the DNA of this single word, KYBERNESIS. In the legislative record of 1 Corinthians 12:28, this word is traditionally translated as governments. But for the modern Technite, that translation is way too static. It sounds like a committee meeting in a church or a church basement. But a forensic dive into the Greek reveals a much more violent, high-velocity reality. KYBERNESIS is rooted in the word kybernetes or kybernetes. In the ancient world, this was the title reserved for the sailors, not the ones who scrubbed the decks, but the elite pilots and navigators who possessed the technical mastery to steer a massive vessel through a lethal storm. I want to tell you about the battle, the drama of Salamis in 480 BC. The Persian king Xerxes is watching from his golden throne on the cliffs. He has a global vision. Conquer the known world. He has the capital, 1,200 massive warships. He has the scale and empire at his back. The Greeks are concerned. They are outnumbered. They are by all marketplace standards finished. But the Greeks possessed KYBERNESIS. As the Persians surged into the narrow waters, their massive ships became their greatest liability. They were heavy, slow, and bogged down by what we now define as administrative drag. They couldn't turn, they couldn't pivot, they were vision heavy, but steerage light. The Greek kybernetes, however, understood the forensics of the strait. They didn't fight the volatile water. They steered through it. With a single rhythmic pull of the rudder, they turned their small vessels into surgical weapons, outmaneuvering the Persian giants and turning the sea red. Steerage defeated scale. Imagine the pilot defeated the king. From centuries, the world left this power in the sea as a maritime survival skill. That is all KYBERNESIS was described back then. For 2 millennia, the ecclesia left it in the sanctuary, treating governments as a quiet office for Sunday administration. In August 2025, the Global Enterprise Academy staged a prison break. We recognize that industry generals and kingdom ambassadors were suffering from vision fatigue. They had the sight to see the future, but they were sinking in the narrow straits of the marketplace because they lacked the rudder. We have successfully migrated KYBERNESIS out of the sea out of the sanctuary and installed it in the secular marketplace. This is the pioneering link of the KPMC. We have re-engineered a maritime skill and a sacred gift into a sovereign operating system. You are not here to manage a project. You are here to pilot an empire through the digital gale. You are the Kybernetes of the agent era. And so let's just wrap this definition up. The legislative capacity to navigate complex institutional structures through high velocity volatility to a predetermined sovereign finish. That is what Kybernesis is all about. So let's talk about our second palace term, jurisdictional term, Technites, which is actually pronounced, the correct pronunciation is Technites, but at GA we've recoined it as Technites. So if Kybernesis is the skill of the pilot, then Technites is the DNA of the builder. In our second palace term, we move from the deck of the ship to the foundation of the city. In the legislative record of Hebrews 11:10, we find a forensic description of the patriarch Abraham. And the text states that he was looking for a city which has foundations, whose builder and maker is God. For most, builder is a simple word for construction, but for us as sovereign architects, we must look deeper into the Greek. Okay. So let's imagine Abraham for a second, a man of massive wealth and prophetic sight. For decades, he lived in a tent, right? A tent is mobile, yes, but a tent is temporary. It requires manual daily effort to keep it standing. It has no plumbing, no permanent borders, and most importantly, it has no foundation. The tent is the biblical equivalent of the marketplace hustle. It is a manual workshop where the leader's effort is the only thing keeping the vision off the ground. But Abraham was tired of the tent. He was looking for a city. A city, of course, is an institution. It has a governance, it has infrastructure, and it has an operating system that functions whether the leader is awake or asleep. Abraham wasn't just a nomad. He was the first Technite of the covenant. The Techne of the Parthenon. In Greek history, a Technite was not a common laborer. They were the elite guild of architects who built the Parthenon and the great monuments of Athens. They possessed the Techne, the specialized high-level knowledge required to ensure that a structure didn't just stand for a season, but commanded the landscape for 2,000 years. When God summoned Abraham out of the tent and told him to count the stars, he wasn't giving him a bedtime story. He was conducting a scope audit. He was showing Abraham the skill of the global enterprise he wanted him to build. He was moving him from just being a visionary to becoming a true Technite. The world is full of visionaries who are still living in tents. Agreed? Visions that are high on inspiration. Clap, clap. But low on infrastructure. They are hustling for the kingdom instead of architecting for the king. Through the GA, our Global Enterprise Academy, within the framework of Kybernesis, we are establishing the Technite mandate. We don't train workers, we commission master builders. We have taken this ancient architect's title out of the ruins of the Greece Parthenon and the pages of Hebrews and installed it into your professional global identity. Note, jurisdictional the jurisdictional reach of this word, right? So from the root Technites, Technites, we derive modern infrastructure of our world. So words like technique, technology, technocrat, technical, right? So these words, they are derived from this technique. So to be a Technite is to possess the technique, the techniques, the technology, right? The specialized intelligence required to govern the technicalities of a global mandate. So you are in this room because you are ready, right? Yes, yes, coach. You are ready to transition your mandate from a manual workshop to a sovereign institution. You are here to move from the city. We are moving from the tent to the city. You are the Technites of this generation, and you are here to install foundations that the gates of hell cannot prevail against. Defining Technites: a highly skilled institutional architect who possesses the technical mastery to translate abstract blueprints into tangible, unshakable structures. Are you ready? So let's look at the third jurisdictional term. We have mastered the KYBERNESIS, right? The steerage, and identified the Technite, which is the builder. But how does a spirit vision actually move matter into a physical economy? We move now to our third term, project management. So in the secular global market, the Project Management Institute, which is the PMI, right? So this is the organization or the association that is recognized for project management professional training, right? It defines project management as the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. So while this is technically accurate for you, the industry general, the kingdom ambassador, the definition is too clinical. It lacks the breath of life. So the sovereign reframe. So we're going to talk a little bit about the jurisdiction, the body of the mandate. So if vision is the spirit and KYBERNESIS is the mind, then project management is the physical body that allows your vision to walk, breathe, and transact in the marketplace. So without a body, as we know, vision is just a ghost, haunting your boardroom, consuming your energy, but never producing a harvest. Project management is the forensic discipline of turning a prophetic sight into a productive asset. Nehemiah is our standard. So we're going to be looking as we progress through our 12-week journey together, the Nehemiah blueprint, right? So I describe him as the governor of the rubble. So to set the gold standard of this term, we look at the legislative record of Nehemiah, right? So Nehemiah was not just a cupbearer. He was a high-level project director. When he received a vision to rebuild Jerusalem, he didn't just go and pray. He didn't just go to the altar. He went to the archive. The strategic authorization, number one, he negotiated with King Artaxerxes for letters of safe passage and requisitions for timber. Yes, this was the first recorded project initiation document, the PID. Right? He went for strategic authorization. Secondly, he conducted a forensic audit. He didn't start building on the first day. He performed a night audit, in fact, of the walls. He measured the rubble. He assessed the damage before he assigned the labor. And thirdly, he secured the resource pipeline. He secured the supply chain before the first stone was even laid. Of course, Nehemiah faced Sanballat and Tobiah, the marketplace competitors of his day. not with a sermon, but with a governance structure. He assigned families to specific jurisdictions of the wall. He installed a communication protocol, which was the trumpet. And because of this architectural rigor, he completed that had been stalled, a project that had been stalled for 70 years in just 52 days. Wow. Wow. A project that was on the shelf for 70 years was installed in 52 days. I call him the governor of the rubble. Within the full KPMC pathway, we have codified this ancient success into a modern forensic toolkit known as the Nehemiah Blueprint. We recognize that most kingdom projects fail not because of a lack of anointing, but because of a lack of structural integrity. And I guess you can sense my passion about this. Through the Nehemiah Blueprint, we will teach you how to move from the weeping vision to the wall of execution. We install the 7 pillars of Nehemiah's governance, from authorization to accountability, ensuring that when you say, I am doing a great work, you have the KPMC credentials to prove it. And so we're here to ensure that your 52-day miracle doesn't become a 40-year wilderness trek. And some of us, we already have passed the age of 50. Some of us have already passed the age of 60, heading into 70. Some of us online here have even crossed the age of 70. I am declaring prophetically, your 52-day miracle is at hand. It is possible. So we define project management as the application of processes, methods, skills, and knowledge to achieve specific project objectives according to what we determine as the definition of done. The definition of done. We are not going to go through these 12 weeks and say we have learned. No, it is finished. That is what we are signing. That is what I'm signing off and credentialing you with. It is finished, right? And it is good. All right, government. This is the 4th term, jurisdictional term. So we must now address this whole misunderstood secular term of government. When we hear the word government, our minds immediately drift to formats. We think of politics, we think of democracy versus dictatorship, we think of republics versus monarchies. But in the framework of KYBERNESIS, we must distinguish between the format and the foundational truth. So human political systems are merely vessels or envelopes, right? They are the temporary containers used by man to manage societies. But foundational government, my friends, the kind defined through the lens of the sovereign creator, is not an election process. It is the installation of order and the exercise of authorized rulership. In the kingdom, government is the capacity of a king to extend his will over a territory through a structured system of laws and administration. It is not about the campaigning, right? It is about commanding a jurisdiction. So Lee Kuan Yew, the man who built Singapore. Let's look at his record and the birth of modern Singapore. In 1965, Singapore was a swamp, a tiny island with zero natural resources, not even enough fresh water to sustain its people. It had no marketplace dominion. By every corporate and global index, it was destined to fail. Lee Kuan Yew did not rely on the format of political rhetoric. He relied on the installation of order. He understood that the move from a manual workshop to a global powerhouse required a sovereign skeleton. He installed a meritocratic civil service, strict rule of law, and relentless administrative discipline. He moved the weight of an entire nation from the heart or the emotion to the shoulder, the infrastructure. In a single generation, he transformed a swamp into one of the most sophisticated financial hubs in human history. Lee Kuan Yew. Isaiah 9:6. This is what we describe as the shoulder protocol. We find the architectural blueprint for this in the legislative record. The text declares, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. Shoulder, moving from the heart to the shoulder, moving from the eyes to the shoulder. In the protocol of the palace, the head conceives the vision, but the shoulder supports the state. The shoulder represents the administrative weight-bearing capacity of an organization. If your vision is massive, but your organization is in chaos, it is because you have a global head, yes, but a very fragile shoulder. Let me repeat that. You have a global head. If your organization, your vision is massive, but your organization is in chaos, you have a global head. Great, clap, clap for that. But you have a very fragile shoulder. You are trying to carry an international mandate on a skeletal system that was not built for the weight. Government is the skeletal framework that allows a mandate to scale without collapsing under the pressure of its own success. So through GEA, we move you past the politics of leadership and manual effort of trying to please people into the jurisdiction of the governor. And the full part where we teach you the LKY standards. So I trust that you all will come in to learn that, how to take the swamp of an unorganized project and install the laws, the boundaries, and the administrative order required to turn into a global powerhouse. You are not just a manager. You are being credentialed to govern the jurisdiction of your vision. We are here to build a shoulder that can carry the weight of a nation. So defining government, as we wrap up term number 4, it's the installation of systemic order and the exercise of authorized power to regulate a jurisdiction. So let's move on to administration. So government and administration, they are not the same thing. Right, so I've utilized the seal here of the office of the President of the United States. That's the executive office of the President of the United States, the office of administration. So there's some depth of revelation inside there, you know, that was downloaded in my heart back in last year when we did cycle 1. And we're going to talk about that, talk a little bit about that today, just introduction. By way of introduction, right? So in 2025, when we were pioneering this framework of KPMC, KYBERNESIS, right? The spirit of governance provided us with a specific jurisdictional flow. It is not about a man, but it is about a man. So to understand this, we looked at the global standard of the United States executive branch. We speak, for example, of the Trump administration or the Biden administration. Note the distinction. The government of the United States is a fixed, permanent institution. The Constitution, the White House, and the seat. But the administration is the unique, time-bound way that the government this power is dispensed through a specific vessel, right, which is the president. So governments, according to 1 Corinthians 12:28, that is the gift, the permanent resource of the king. But administration is the unique application of that gift through you, the Technite. One provides the power, and the other provides the personality and the precision of the execution. Yes? So the government, again, is the constitution, the house, the seat, but the administration that happens through or is powered or dispensed through a specific vessel. So the 3P protocol of administration, just very, very quickly, we deal with this in detail in the full pathway. So the presidential level, this is the mandate of the sovereign. Administration never exists in a vacuum. It is always under the presidency of the king. Just as the US administration carries out the mandate of the executive office, your administration is the service of the king's intent. You are not building your own company. You are not building your own organization. You are administering a sovereign mandate. Your first fiduciary duty is to ensure the vision of the king is the one being executed on the ground. The second level is the personal level, where you are responsible for sharpening of your vessel. This is where it is about a man. So administration requires the Technite to undergo sharpening. So in this 12-week journey, we are not just fixing systems, we are architecting the version of you that needs to be ready for the vision of your king. The version of you. If the vessel is cracked, the administration will leak. You cannot govern a global enterprise with a manual workshop mindset. Your personal discipline is the ceiling of your institutional growth. Let me repeat that. Your personal discipline, your level of sharpening, your quality, your level of excellence, your competency, that is the ceiling of your institutional growth. As great as your vision, as powerful as that may be, if the version of you is weak, then you have capped the vision. Yes? And thirdly, the people level. This has to do with service of the kingdom. There can be no administration without an intended impact on a people. In the Palace Protocol, the purpose of administration is the welfare of the citizens. Joseph was not made Grand Vizier so he could have a title. He was installed to administer a grain system that ensured the survival of a global population. Your administration is the bridge between the king's treasure and the needs of the people. If you are not serving, you are not administering. You are merely picking up space. Unproductive. Right? So we will move you from administrative drag, where you are a slave to the paperwork, to sovereign administration, where you are master of the intelligence pipeline. And don't be afraid or ashamed or feel any way to describe yourself as a master or a Technite. That is who you will become if you apply yourself to the protocols of the next couple of weeks with us. The digital workforce. AI and the digital workforce. So again, we are merging the concepts of artificial intelligence and the digital workforce into a single jurisdiction called mastery. Yes, mastery. So in the agent era, a Technite does not operate alone. Your workforce is no longer limited to the humans in your building. It includes a sophisticated ecosystem of AI, digital envoys, automated workflows, and high-capacity digital tools. Now, we know AI stands for artificial intelligence, right? But the protocol at the GA is led by apostolic intelligence. What do I mean by that? Say, coach, what is apostolic intelligence? Hear from God first that is the apostolic intelligence, then employ the proxy, the artificial intelligence. I think we could celebrate that. Apply apostolic intelligence first, and then employ your artificial intelligence, AI, right? So hear from God, and then employ the AI. So we don't ask AI for the vision. Be very clear on that. We use AI to build the information. AI is your digital Gibeonite, the hero of word and draw of data that allows you to focus on what matters most, which is high-level steerage. So imagine a nation born out of the ashes of the Soviet Union in 1991. One of my favorite stories, right? The Digital Republic. I describe it as Estonia. So let me tell you a little bit about that. Estonia had no natural resources. It was a tiny population and had obsolete analog infrastructure. You remember analog? They were trapped in the narrow straits of poverty as well. But their leadership didn't look for more manual labor. They didn't look to see if we could have a 10-day, what they call a 10 days or another CPEP program, right? They looked for digital mastery. They decided to skip the 20th century and move straight into the agent era. They built the world's first digital republic. Today, 99% of their governmental services are online. Yes, it is possible. An Estonian citizen can register a global business in 18 minutes from a laptop in the middle of a forest. I hope you all are being stirred. I trust you all are really, really being stirred this morning. They didn't just use computers. They installed a digital workforce. They created the X Road. Yes, the X Road. An AI pipeline that allows different governmental databases to talk to each other without human interference. This eliminated administrative drag so effectively that it saves the nation 800 years of working time every single year. Every year, they save 800 years of working time. Can you imagine if we were to get that in our jurisdictions? In the framework of KYBERNESIS, we do not fear AI. We command it. Just as Joshua brought the Gibeonites into the service of the tabernacle to be hewers of wood and drawers of water, the Technites use AI and digital mastery to handle the heavy, repetitive labor of data. I repeat, hear from God first. Get apostolic intelligence. Then get help from the proxy, artificial intelligence. Estonia proved that a tiny nation could have global impact if they master their digital envoys. You are here to learn how to build a digital consulate. Get used to these terms so that while you work, that while you sleep, work is happening, ensuring your jurisdiction is never limited by your physical presence. I want us to aim for digital mastery, knowing your tools so well that the distance between a command and its execution is zero. If you're still doing manual clerk work that a digital agent can perform, you are not a governor. You are a laborer. Digital mastery is the technical discipline required, for global dominance. And so the last term that we're going to look at is one of my favorites, the sovereign producer. This is the enterprise model of KYBERNESIS. The enterprise model of KYBERNESIS. So in many spiritual and corporate circles, we have an epidemic of consumers, people who just ingest vision but never move matter. But the kingdom is an economy of production. Production. The kingdom is an economy of production, a producing, productive economy. Right? Huh. In the protocol of the kingdom, there is no reward for trying. I want you to get that and get that very clear. There is no reward for trying. There is only reward for finished work. In a world of visions that never leave the paper, the Technite is distinguished by one thing: asset production. Faith without works is DEAD. So the first audit of sovereign production is the Genesis standard. The king did not just have a concept of light. He spoke, he architected, and he produced light. At the end of that first milestone, the creator performed an executive audit. He looked at the light and saw that it functioned according to the blueprint and decreed, it is good. That was the first recorded definition of done, our DOD. Menlo Park, 1879. Thomas Edison. God created the sun, but he authorized man to architect the electric light. Edison had the sight. He knew that electricity could be harnessed to eliminate darkness. But between his sight and the marketplace dominion of the light bulb lay the deadly gap of failure. History records that Edison failed over 1,000 times to find the right filament. To a hustler, 1,000 failures is a sign to quit. But to a Technite, failure is merely the forensic removal of what does not work. When a reporter asked him how it felt to fail 1,000 times, Edison gave a sovereign producer response. He said, I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps. Let that sink. I didn't fail 1,000 times. No. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps. He refused to accept an unfinished mandate. He stayed in the laboratory, his watchtower, until the work was good, until it was done. He moved from being a visionary with an idea to becoming a sovereign producer of the light that changed human civilization forever. Hebrews 11:10 says, God is the maker and builder. He is a producer, maker and builder. He is a producer. Our king in charge of our kingdom is a producer. We are exhausting the spirit of the consumer and installing the DNA of the producer. That is what you're being certified and credentialed to do. We are here to ensure that you stop producing tents or temporary efforts and start producing cities, institutional assets. You are not in this room to leave with more information. God forbid. You are here to reach your own definition of done, whether it is your book, a business, or a global mission. Your legacy is not found in what you started. It is found in the asset you have the resolve to call good. You must finish. You must produce. That is my heart for you today. If we have completed, if I stop this VIP session at 10:45, quarter to 11, I have done well. I've given you enough to go out there and have a resolve that whatever I have started, I must finish. I must finish, and I must be able to look at it and call it good. You all are ready to move to the next level? I am ready to help us move to the next level. You have a mandate as a Technite. Your mandate is to move from vision to execution. From vision to execution. I've extracted some of my favorite records in history. Some are alive today, but the vision is still alive, very much alive today. I'm going to start with Walt Disney. Architecting a world from just a swamp. Imagine a man sitting at a drawing board, bankrupt several times, dismissed by over 300 banks, who told him his ideas were worthless. Walt Disney did not just see cartoons. He didn't just see a mouse. He saw an empire of great imagination. When he looked at a mosquito-infested swamp in Central Florida, the world saw waste. But Walt Disney, the Technite, saw Disney World. He saw my world. He saw a sovereign city before the first shovel ever hit the dirt. He didn't just draw. He created Disney Imagineering. He developed a forensic administrative system that could turn a sketch into a multi-billion-dollar corporation. He moved from the sanctuary of his mind to the execution of a global brand because he mastered the architecture of the impossible. Turned down by over 300 banks. Bankrupt several times. Undermined by friends. Today, Disney corporations govern the gates of global media because one man stayed in the laboratory of steerage until the swamp became a kingdom. A man and a mouse became a global mandate. Let's turn to Uta, Nigeria. If you believe that marketplace dominion is only for the secular, let's audit Think Faith Church, the Winners Chapel in Nigeria. In 1998, Bishop David Oyedepo, a master Technite, received a mandate to move the headquarters to a 530-acre wilderness in Uta, Nigeria. It was a forest infested with snakes and deep-rooted occultic activity. To the natural eye, it was rubble. While most would have taken 10 years to build, Bishop Oyedepo installed governmental steerage. He didn't just pray, he architected. His definition of done. He decreed the construction of a 50,000-seat faith tabernacle. Strategic velocity, relentless administrative discipline. and zero debt financing. No debt, didn't borrow. The structure was completed in not 10 years, not 5 years, not 3 years, but in exactly 12 months. At the time, it was recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as the largest church auditorium in the world. Today, Canaan Land is not just a church. It's a sovereign city-state covering over 5,000 acres. And recently, they moved into the Ark, a larger building. Canaan Land also houses university, which is consistently ranked the #1 private university in Nigeria and landmark university. The city produces its own 24/7 electricity, water, and security, completely independent of the national grid, independent of the government. This wilderness vision now governs a global network across 65 nations. Bishop Oyedepo proved that a Technite can take a snake-infested forest and through KYBERNESIS, turn it into a global educational and ecclesiastical powerhouse. He didn't wait for the government to fix the roads. No. He installed the government that built the roads. Imagine. He installed the government that built the roads. This is another one of my favorites. The plutocrats' 1,000 times ROI. In 1939, a 685-acre stretch of land known as Hog Island sat in the Bahamas. The local government at the time lacked the sight, they lacked the vision to see its potential, viewing it as a rugged wasteland for livestock. American plutocrat Edmund Lynch, co-founder of Merrill Lynch, recognized the jurisdictional value and purchased a large portion for mere US $16,000. He saw what the state could not. After his tenure, industrialist Axel Wenner-Gren acquired it, but it was the Huntington Hartford II in 1959 who performed the ultimate KYBERNESIS. Hartford purchased the island for US $11 million and immediately petitioned the government to change its jurisdiction name from Hog to Paradise Island. He didn't just buy land, right? He spent US $30 million. So he bought the land and he spent a further US $30 million architecting and infrastructure, building the Ocean Club, the cloisters, and the golf courses. In the 1990s, another Technite, Saul Kersner, saw the finished work. He purchased the property and architected Atlantis. Atlantis. A US $800 million initial investment turned into a multi-billion-dollar global landmark. Today, Paradise Island anchors a Bahamian tourism industry that welcomes over 8 million tourists per annum. 8 million tourists per annum. What can we take away as Technites? The government of Bahamas sold a swamp for thousands. The Technite sold a paradise for billions. What changed? Not the land. The land didn't change. The architecture did. Let's hover a little bit longer in Bahamas. Dr. Miles Monroe, the jurisdictional shift to global. This is one of my own mentors, the late Dr. Miles Monroe. Born on a small island in a tiny jurisdiction, he had a vision to transform followers into leaders, one of which I have become. Many in his position would have stayed as a local voice in a small church, but Dr. Monroe was a master Technite. He understood that for a message to possess the nations, it must be institutionalized. The KYBERNESIS, he didn't just preach, he architected what we know today as Monroe Global. He built a multidisciplinary ecosystem of books, certified training, and governmental advisory. He moved from the island of New Providence to the boardrooms of presidents and the halls of the United Nations. He saw himself as a global brand before the world even recognized his face. He moved from local site to marketplace dominion by installing the governance and administration required to support a global mandate, and proved that where you start does not determine your jurisdiction. Your architecture does. Your KYBERNESIS does. Fanny Crosby, who lived from 1820 to 1915, was a legendary American mission worker, poet, and lyricist who was accidentally blinded by a medical mistake when she was only 6 weeks old. Refusing to let her physical darkness dim her inner light, she grew up to become one of the most prolific hymn writers in history, penning over 8,000 hymns and gospel songs, including classics like Blessed Assurance, Jesus is Mine. Crosby was highly sought after by presidents and dignitaries, and she spent decades actively ministering to the poor and displaced in New York City's rescue missions. Her profound outlook on her life is encapsulated in her observation: I sometimes think that blind people see more than their friends who have the power of vision. She firmly believed that her lack of physical sight allowed her to maintain an undistracted, laser-focused clarity on her spiritual purpose and higher calling. Helen Keller, who lived from 1880 to 1968, was an iconic American author, political activist, and lecturer who became both blind and deaf at just 19 months old due to severe illness. Overcoming seemingly insurmountable communication barriers with the help of her teacher, Anne Sullivan, Keller went on to become the first deaf-blind person to earn a Bachelor of Arts degree, graduating cum laude from Radcliffe College in 1904. As a co-founder of the ACLU and a fierce advocate for people with disabilities, she spent her life traveling globally to transform how the world views human potential. Her legendary quote, "The only thing worse than being blind is having sight, but no vision." It serves as a timeless reminder that physical eyes are useless if the mind lacks a destination, purpose, or dream. The only thing worse than being blind is having sight, but no vision. Why visions fail? I'm going to provide you with forensic data, the crisis of the 70%. Research indicates that 70% of all strategic initiatives and high-level visions fail. They do not fail for lack of passion. They fail for lack of architecture. When we audit the marketplace graveyard, 3 recurring data points emerge as the primary causes of debt for a mandate. First, lack of strategic alignment. The architecture gap has a 37% failure rate. According to the PMI Pulse of the profession, 37% of projects fail because of a lack of clearly defined goals. We are going to teach you how to steer and reframe this. These are visions that possess sight but lack PID sovereignty. In the kingdom, this is an authorized mandate without a project initiation document. If the goal is not forensically defined, the government has nothing to stand on. You cannot execute what you haven't architected. Secondly, communication breakdown. That's the language gap. 29% of project failures are attributed to poor communication. This is the Babel conflict, the Tower of Babel, right? When the visionary speaks sanctuary and the team speaks survival, the project stalls. Without a shared jurisdictional lexicon, terms like KYBERNESIS, Technites, there is no synchronization of effort. Confusion is the primary source of administrative drag. And we're going to teach you how to build your communication, how to architect that for project success. And finally, the lack of executive sponsorship. Gartner research shows that roughly 33% of failures occur because senior leadership fails to provide the necessary steerage. Yes, leadership is responsible because of lack of steerage. This is the KYBERNESIS failure at the zenith. This happens when the leader is too busy hustling on the deck, too busy preaching, rather than steering from the watchtower. It is important that leadership architect KYBERNESIS. When the general is occupied with clerk work, the mandate loses its apostolic velocity and drifts into the reefs of bankruptcy or obscurity. That is very important. Do not leave the primary things of giving yourself to the word and to prayer to come down and serve tables, but do not leave the tables without service and KYBERNESIS. Yeah. But I want to talk a little bit why visions fail. I want to just capture this today, being blind to eternal rewards. Beyond the secular statistics, we must address the psychology of deferred execution. Research in behavioral economics shows that human motivation is tied to the immediacy of reward, getting rewards now, 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 now. That's the earthly trap. Most leaders are looking for human recognition, immediate income, or social validation. When these earthly dividends are low during the middle season of a project, the brain triggers a motivation collapse. I try it. Nobody recognizes me. I'm not making the money. I don't feel like you know what they say, the FOMO, fear of missing out. I'm not in the social circles. So there's motivation collapse. So what happens? The leader defers execution, waiting for a better time that will never come. This is the administrative grave where 70% of visions are buried. What's the solution for us as Technites? Grasping the revelation of the eternal reward. The Technite is not fueled by marketplace applause. We operate under the fiducial protocol of the King. Heavenly rewards. In Matthew 16:27, he shall reward every man according to his works, not according to his faith, but according to his production. When you understand that you are operating under the fiducial protocol of the King and you have a heavenly reward, it moves you into a greater dimension. Inheritance versus income. We are building for an eternal inheritance. When your motivation is anchored in the audit of the sovereign, you do not stop when the income is low. You finish the work because the eternal fiduciary settlement is already signed in the heavens. Your inheritance. Hebrews 6:10, one of my favorite verses. God is not unrighteous to forget your labor of love, your work. He is not unrighteous to forget your work. That is not who he is. That is not the King that we serve. No way. Running over the walls. Are you ready for a global vision? Are you ready to establish a global vision? Talk to me, Technites. Are you ready? You look at these 70% failure rates and ask, am I a statistic or am I an architect? Do I fall within the 7% or do I fall within the 30%? That succeeded. He didn't just have a dream. He had the KYBERNESIS to store grain. Do you have the vision? Are you ready to run over the walls? But the significant question is, do you have the blueprint? KPMC is where we install the 70% fail safe. We are here to ensure that your bow has the structural integrity to run over the walls of local limitation and possess the gates of global impact. But let's talk a little bit about this whole concept of global vision, the genealogy of dominion and generational impact. You might be saying to me, Coach, I don't think I'm called to have any massive organization, you know, like Monroe Global and be out there. You are still called to global vision. Go ye into all the world. You are called to that by your King. That is your work. The Lord of the harvest. That is your work. That's your project sponsor. Let's confront with honesty, integrity, and intelligence why we must pursue KYBERNESIS. If your vision is limited to just building global institutions, you're still thinking too small. If you're just thinking about building, you know, your global magnet and an organization or institution, I am saying to you today, as your coach, your thinking is still too small. If I just settle to build Key Global Group, my thinking is too small. This is a revelation that the Lord gave me, and I want to share this with you today. An institution is a structure of stone and glass, but a kingdom mandate is a structure of seed and succession. Global vision is not about geographical expansion. Really, it is about generational impact. HANA protocol. As a parent, you are an architect of global vision and generational impact. Look at Hannah. To the casual observer, she was just a woman in a sanctuary praying for a child. But forensically, through the lenses of KYBERNESIS, Hannah was an architect of national transformation. She didn't just want a son. She wanted to produce a prophetic pivot for her nation. She was willing to consecrate the asset, her Samuel, before it was even produced. Hannah had a global vision that started in a local prayer. And because of her steerage, she birthed the leader who would crown kings. Your global initiative might be the child you are raising or the student you are grooming to possess a gate you will never enter. What about caretakers, sovereign mentors? We talked about the Hannah protocol, but I want to add the Mordecai mandate. Consider Mordecai. He was a caretaker, a gatekeeper for an orphan named Hadassah. Others saw a displaced girl, but Mordecai saw a diplomatic weapon. He possessed the KYBERNESIS to navigate her through the narrow straits of the Persian court, architecting her identity until she became Queen Esther. He didn't need the crown himself. He was the strategic architect behind the woman who would save a race from extinction. Vision is the capacity to see the queen within the orphan and to resolve to install the infrastructure required for her rise. Let that sink. Sink. Thirdly, I'm sharing what God placed on my heart to say to you today. Isaiah 53:10 audit the cost of the seed. And I want to honor my father, my mentor, and my gatekeeper. He's also director of prayer counsel and evangelism, Evangelist Haynes Fraser, who birthed this revelation in my spirit recently. Isaiah 53:10 is the ultimate executive, the Messiah. The legislative record in Isaiah 53:10 says, yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him, but it did not end there. It said, he shall see his seed. He shall see his seed. It pleased the Lord to bruise him, but he shall see his seed. In the boardroom of the heavens, the crushing was not a tragedy. It was a capital investment. Jesus endured the operational pressure of the cross because his line of sight was fixed on the seed. He wasn't looking at the pain of the execution. It was the joy of the cross. He was looking at the ROI of the redemption. He saw the global harvest that his crushing would authorize. What's your apostolic audit? How far do you see? Do you see past your current bank balance? Do you see past the walls of your current title? Do you see the seed that will be birthed from your current bruising and operational trials? And more importantly, what are you willing to do about it? Vision without KYBERNESIS is a fantasy. If you are not willing to build the administration, you have no right to pray for the harvest. And I say that with all humility and divine authority. If you are not willing to build, then you have no right to pray for any harvest. If you are not willing to architect the city or the infrastructure, you are not yet a Technite. You do not have the DNA. Then you are not flowing in the DNA. You have the DNA, but you are not flowing in the DNA of the master builder. KPMC is about providing you with the technical resolve to match your prophetic sight. We are here to ensure that when the king looks at your work, he doesn't just see an institution. He sees a generational legacy. Are you ready for the next level? Are you ready to go global? Are you ready for generational impact? Are you ready to run over the walls? Genesis 49:22 says that Joseph is a fruitful bough by the well, running over the walls. Are you doing what you have not been called to do? Too many of us are answering callings and talking about callings. But my friend, you need to answer sendings. You were sent, not just called. You were sent out into all the world. Too many of us, we are just sitting in the prayer room, sitting in the sanctuary, loafing on the seas, on the shores. But we have been sent to go global. Go global. So our KPMC cadence is a 12-week journey that incorporates 2 phases. Phase 1, weeks 1 to 6, we deal with project initiation and planning. Phase 2, week 7 to 12, we deal with project launch and execution. We have moved into our executive prime time on Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 12 noon AST. I know we have persons joining from different parts of the world, from the Caribbean, USA, Africa. It's 10 a.m., 12 noon AST here in our jurisdiction in Trinidad, right? So you can get your time zone, your local time zone. Virtual campus, we're going through the Zoom webinar, and you're going to have access to your GA Student Embassy student portal. Yes, so inside of there, all your recordings, all your toolkits, all of your material that you need as you move forward, templates and so on. The cost, your investment, your fiduciary investment is US 200. Yeah. So let's talk about your credentialing. Your credentialing. Your global impact mandate, your GMA project. Your GMA project. So you're going to have 4 options, choosing one out of these 4. This is what you have to produce or complete in order to receive your credentials, your certification and credentials. So let's talk about those. Your first GMA is the national government, your global impact mandate activation, right? Project. So your first project is your national government GMA. So you can choose to architect a youth development initiative designed for national scale impact and future state leadership. So we're going to provide you with the instruments to secure a relationship and a project at your national government level. We're going to do the letters of introduction. So your project sponsor would be domiciled or domained within the framework of your national government. Right? Yes, I know that's a huge challenge, but I want you to get excited about it. Then the second option, or your second project option, is your evangelical GMA. This is where you get to architect a church or ministry growth initiative, moving the sanctuary from addition to apostolic multiplication. You have to demonstrate an evangelistical approach to church growth, right? So that's your evangelical GMA. So if you choose that project, of course, you get, when we step into week 2, you'll have all your instruments in terms of the project that you select. Then you have your MSME GMA. This is where you get to architect a Go Global Business Transformation Initiative to move a local micro, small, or medium enterprise into international territorial dominion. That's your MSME, right? Or you can select your corporate GMA project. This is where you're architecting a strategic workplace initiative to install institutional governance and eliminate operational friction within an existing corporate structure. So this is your strategic workplace initiative. So we'll do letters for your project sponsors, your leaders there in corporate, and to get ready, get started on your project. How many of you are excited to do a GMA? Right, to get your KPMC credential doing a GMA. So this is going to be awesome, amazing. I'm excited about it, and I trust that you are as well. Scoring protocol. So in completing your project, this is how the scoring protocol goes. We're not going to apply exams this time around, but 10% goes towards conceptual agreement. So conceptual agreement, this has to do with securing the sovereign handshake, obtaining formal authorization from your project sponsor to proceed. So your project sponsor gives you the nod or the thumbs up and says, yes, I love the direction, this project that you're undertaking. I'm gonna support you with this. Once you get that sovereign handshake, 10%. Then 40% on approval of your project initiation document must meet the GA gold standard. So we're going to teach you, give you the blueprint, how to architect your PID, and you'll get that signed off. And 50%, the final 50%, of course, goes towards your project launch and handover. This is your evidence of execution, submission of your formal launch and handover report, marking the project's definition of done. Please note your guardrails. All milestones must be audited and approved by your project sponsor. The project sponsor is not somebody you're going and ask for money, right? So that type of sponsorship, it differs in the space of project management. So your project sponsor is the high-level leader or CEO or elder who carries the ultimate responsibility for the territory you are building. So we do not build in isolation. We build under authority. Yes? All right. Good. Your designation, being a certified KYBERNESIS project manager. John Doe, KPMC, Natasha Andrews, KPMC. Upon successful completion of the GMA project and the performance audit, you are conferred the title of Certified KYBERNESIS Project Manager. This is more than an academic milestone. It is the acquisition of a professional rank. You are authorized to utilize the KPMC post-nominal designation to signal your mastery of institutional governance and AI architecture to boards, governments, and international partners. Much like the ACCA or other high fiduciary bodies, the KPMC is a living credential. Professional standing is maintained on an annual basis through the GA alumni. So this ensures that every leader carrying the KPMC initials remains at the forefront of global strategic updates, AI shifts, and institutional standards. Every Technite is entered into the GA Global Sovereign Registry. Your status is backed by a serialized certification ID, verifiable 24/7 via the GA portal online. So anyone from around the world can log in and they can verify your credentials, right? Your standing. So let's talk a little bit in terms of comparison of the weight of your credentials compared to the global authorities. So if selected university degrees, JFM, that stands for the Global Academy of Finance and Management. So that's an organization that also certifies persons in the area of management, project management, consulting. I'm also certified with them. And then PMI, right, the Project Management Institute, and other generic certification bodies comparing with, the GA KPMC designation. So we look at 5 features: focus, pace, AI integration, outcome, and marketplace authority. So university degrees, so where you have BSc, for example, and so on, PhD after your name, it's academic, theory-based. That's the focus for university degrees, right? The professional bodies like JFM, PMI, and so on, they are tactical task management focus. But the GA, KPMC is governmental steerage, KYBERNESIS focus. PACE, when it comes to PACE, degrees are 2 to 5 years, analog, JFM, and so on. They have static curriculum. We have 12 weeks sovereign print, right? So digital era. So AI integration, university degrees sometimes are lacking. There are some upgrades that's happening. So the PMI, they have basic and generic AI integration in their curriculum. We emphasize AI architecture and digital workforce in your KPMC. The outcome, knowledge in degrees, proficiency in PMI, but in KPMC, it's institutional legacy and produce assets. So you have a live project that is launched, right? Marketplace authority, it's general, so it applies globally. Marketplace authority for PMIs, technical. The KPMC, it's executive, in addition to the technical, executive, and apostolic command. So while university degree provides a foundation and a GFM certification provides a technical tool, I have all of them. KPMC provides a steerage. So we are not competing with these bodies. We are augmenting them. We take the professional discipline you already possess and install the KYBERNESIS framework required to lead in a border digital first economy. Yes? All right. So at this time, we're gonna open up the Q&A and the chat. So I'm gonna look at the chats. If you have questions, this is your opportunity to do so. I'd like for you to ask questions, any questions that you may have. All right, thank you. Welcome, welcome. Dr. Oliver from our partners at the Caribbean Graduate School of Theology in Jamaica. He's the president there. And they offer undergraduate and postgrad degrees in theology, as well as specializations, degrees in counseling, psychology. You hear more. All right, any questions? Questions? So you all are clear on everything. Would you have access to the information shared today? You would have access to some of the information shared today? Yes, absolutely. Good question. Good question. Any other questions? Any other questions for us? If for some reason you would have joined via the browser and you're unable to interact or engage or post your questions here, just for a minute or so, I'll respond to questions that you may send to me via WhatsApp. Just want to make sure that when we leave here today, you have what you need, right? All right. All right. Okay, thank you so much. Very straightforward, deep, enriching, and passionately shared. Great framework. Right. So I have other questions to need to reflect further on the information. Right. Excellent. Okay, let me just check Q&A. When does class begin? Class began. Class began today. Welcome to KPMC. And we're going to be, in terms of doing our official onboarding during this week. So next week, Tuesday, we are jumping right in. We're going to be looking at GMA next week Tuesday. So you're going to be selecting your projects and we're going to be walking through the blueprints and so on. You're going to, in terms of onboarding your student portal, all of your access and so on. So this particular link was only for today's session. Only registered students are going to be allowed access into the embassy from next week, Tuesday, right? You're going to have your, just as with all of our other programs, you receive your onboarding kit into student portal. That is going to happen during the course of this week into next week. You can share the word. Persons who want to come on, and we will do well. Once you're into student portal and persons who may have registered after and was not able to be part of this session, and you want to come into next week and you want them to come in next week, student portal is going to have this session, this recording on. So then they're going to, have access to the information that we shared here today, right? Any other questions for us? All right, so you're excused. Yes, you have to sign up, and so you can go on to the website, and just for ease today, I'm going to just drop that link in the chat for you. Just give me a second to get that done. So you can go on to www.keyglobalhq.com and just click the button enroll in GEA. And you get the option to enroll in KPMC there. I'm going to drop that link for those of you on. All right. So I just put the link in the chat there for you. Right, you can get your KPMC designation. You can get your KPMC designation in 12 weeks. Sessions will be done during the same times as now, correct? Yes, that's correct. All right. And of course, persons who are part of GA, you have direct access during the course of the course. You have direct access to coaching with Natasha, Nicole J. Andrews. If you were to book me outside of that time, right? The price point is not going to be 200 US, right? Okay, so I do encourage you to hop on, be part of, share. This is an amazing experience. Really is going to be shifting. Parents, guardians, as you see, there are mandates that go beyond, what we know as the norm, project management. But of course, we're going to be learning the technical basics, some of the things that are, and that is inside of the PMI framework. We're going to be diving in those. Yeah. All right, so this time it's 11:34, and we're going to be wrapping up. We're not going to stretch this all the way to 12 to noon. So I just want to leave you with this commissioning, and very, very prophetically, to come up hither. Come up hither. That was taken directly from Revelations, I believe chapter 5, where the door was opened and spoke to John, the Revelator. He told him to come up hither. And many times in the context when we're talking about going global, we say come up hither as come up higher. But actually come up hither, while there is inside of that, because of come up means higher, hither means to come here. Come here. So there is a predefined place that you must be when heaven is looking. Or that we would capture or have a glimpse of there is corporate heaven meeting right now. They're looking and they're reviewing our meeting today. They're performing a forensic audit as to what should have happened versus what had happened today. I am so glad and I celebrate with you that you have come up hither. You are here. So there is a predetermined place that corporate heaven has already determined for you to be. That is the place where you need to be. So we don't just want us to say arbitrarily, come up higher. Where is higher? Where is higher? So my decree to you today is come up here, come hither. Find that place, come up hither. That where God wants you to be, and step into that place. It has already been predetermined. Lo, I come in the volume of the book that is written concerning me. David prophetically declared that, and that was also declared by our Lord Jesus Christ. And secondly, possess the gates. Possess the gates of economy. Possess the gates of your community. Possess the gates of government. Possess the gates of the future. The king has seen his seed, and the finished work is in your hands. Come up hither. I commission you. Possess the gates. I commission you. Session 1 is now officially concluded. Steer well, Technites. Shalom.